Have you ever noticed something different about people who grew up as teenagers in the 1980s? Not louder, not tougher in an obvious way, just grounded. Like they don't panic when things get quiet, like they don't need constant reassurance, like they know who they are without having to explain it. That didn't happen by accident. See, being a teenager in the 80s didn't just shape your memories, it wired your nervous system. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You grew up in a world that didn't hover over you. No GPS, no read receipts, no one checking if you made it home safe every 20 minutes. Number phone in our pocket that could record everything at any moment. No anxious parents calling every minute asking for a report. You left the house and your parents just said, "Be back before dark." And somehow you figured it out. That freedom wasn't just fun. It taught your brain something powerful early on. You're responsible for yourself. You were a latchkey kid. You came home to an empty house. You made your own snack. You figured out your own boredom. Nobody rushed in to entertain you. And boredom back then wasn't a crisis. It was normal. You stared at the ceiling. You laid on the floor listening to the same cassette on repeat. You waited by the radio all night with excitement for your favorite artist's favorite track. You flipped channels until nothing was on and just sat there. And without realizing it, your brain learned a skill most people today never fully develop: being alone without falling apart. That's why people from that era can sit in silence without getting bored, read books for hours, eat a meal without checking their phone every 30 seconds. Their mind doesn't freak out when stimulation drops. Now, let's talk about social life, because here's where it gets wild. In the 80s, if you wanted to see your friends, you had to actually go find them. No group chat, no location sharing. You checked the mall, the arcade, the parking lot everyone knew about. And when you found them, you had to read the room fast. Who's in a good mood? Who's mad at who? Who's about to start drama? You learned social awareness the hard way, face to face. No filters, no typing and deleting. No hiding behind a screen. If you said something dumb, you saw the reaction immediately. If you hurt someone, you felt it. That built a real emotional intelligence, not textbook stuff. Street-level people skills. You learned how to sense tension, how to know when to stay quiet, how to tell when someone was fake without needing screenshots. And dating? Oh man. If you liked someone, you didn't slide into DMs. You called their house on a landline. And yeah, their dad might answer, your heart racing, palms sweaty, voice cracking like, hi sir, may I speak to Mia? That alone trained your nervous system to handle fear. You had to show up. Literally knock on the door, make eye contact, sit on the couch while her family judged your entire existence. There was no hiding. And when heartbreak hit, real heartbreak, you couldn't post about it. You couldn't stalk their profile. You couldn't refresh for validation. You just felt it alone in your room, music blasting, thinking you were never going to recover. And then eventually you did. That's emotional resilience. Not avoiding pain, learning you can survive it. People who grew up in the 80s learned early that emotions don't kill you, they pass. And that lesson sticks for life. Now, let's talk about work, because, yeah, you probably had a job. Not for experience, not for a resume, for money. Real money. If you wanted something, you earned it. Walkman, concert tickets, gas money. No one Venmo'd you, and that hardwired a belief most people today struggle with. I can create outcomes. When something went wrong, you didn't immediately look for someone to fix it. You figured it out. That's why this generation handles stress differently. They don't collapse under pressure. They problem solve. And here's a big one people don't talk about enough. Privacy. You grew up without an audience. Your awkward phase wasn't documented. Your bad haircut didn't live forever online. Your mistakes faded with time. You got to build your identity quietly in your room, in your journal, in your thoughts. Not for likes, not for approval. That's why so many people from that era have a solid sense of self. They don't need to perform who they are. They already know. And when you compare that to today, constant visibility, constant judgment, constant noise, you start to understand something important. Those 80s teenagers weren't just lucky. They were trained. Trained to tolerate boredom. Trained to handle discomfort. Trained to read people. Trained to be alone. Trained to wait. Trained to recover. They didn't grow up faster. They grew deeper. And in a world that never shuts up, that kind of wiring is rare. If this hits something in you, hit like, share it with someone who grew up the same way, and subscribe. This channel breaks down the psychology most people feel, but never put into words. See you in the next video, my dear friend.